The dreaded cold call or the initial sales call that most people in sales dread. No need to worry. I'm here to help you get over that fear and become successful in the art of cold calling, whether it's social media, regular telephone, it doesn't matter. There's a great opportunity to take advantage of it now. Welcome to the Martial Arts of Sales. My name is Paul Cruz. I'm actually in my new place. I just moved into a new location over the weekend, so I don't have everything set up. So I have my little miniature easel board that I'm going to be using today. It's been a while since I used one. But the topic for today is how to build a rapport in the sales or cold call process. This is the opening monologue. One of the things that I've learned is in sales, there's always basic things that you should never let go of. Any athlete, any successful athlete, any professional athlete, any musician, any actor, anyone that's successful in their craft always keeps certain basic fundamentals that never change. The only thing that changes is the cosmetics around it. Cold calling is one of the major tools that I think a lot of people either are afraid, number two, don't like doing it, or don't know how to do it. So after this video, I hope it will be helpful to you, that it can help you learn the art of cold calling. So there's about, I would say, 7 to 10 different things or steps you need to do in the sales process, in the cold call process, to really build a strong rapport with your prospect to convert them into a customer, and then that customer eventually becoming a client. Very important that you do that. And I'm excited about it. I would never give up cold calling. I love cold calling. Now, whether people are following me on my social platform or it's just straight cold call from the Better Business Bureau, Google, it doesn't matter. I never take it for granted. More importantly, I always apply the 10 steps. That's basic fundamentals, like hitting a free throw shot. You do it the same way all the time, no matter what part of the field or part of the floor you're in playing basketball. You shoot the same way all the time. Does that make sense? So whether you're cold calling on social media, which people are starting to realize there's a lot of opportunities on these platforms to do cold calling, or whether you're just flat out doing cold call the old-fashioned way, which I love to do. Before we dig into the topic, if you're watching this on YouTube for the first time, hit the subscription button below, and now let's go to the introduction. Hello everybody, welcome to the Martial Arts of Sales. This is a topic that I think is one of the most important topics for any salesperson, because building a rapport and building a relationship from the get-go in the initial call is the most important thing in the whole sales process. It takes a lot of experience, a lot of sales, and a lot of times, you got to go through doing it wrong to get it right. But the number one thing is really you have to be yourself. You can't come across as you're reading a script, even when you are reading a script. That's what the professionals do. That's what I do, because you got to make the script who you are. And that way people buy into you. But there's about 10 things you need to do consistently to build rapport with the potential customer, or what I call the prospect. A lot of times when I cold call, from the Better Business Bureau. I do it the old-fashioned way because I earn my business that way. I take the same approach on all of my social media platforms. Those who are following me, I don't take it for granted. Why? Because I never, ever feel that they're just gonna buy from me because my name is Paul Cruz or they're following me. I think it's a mistake when you do that. Now, so the number one thing I've learned is you have to earn trust from the initial hello, okay? Have to do that. How do you do that? Well, one of the things that I do is first I understand when I'm calling them that they're not expecting my call, right? So you also have to understand that they're going to be in a mindset. You don't know what kind of mindset. A lot of times they're going to be in a bad attitude because they might have been doing something and you were able to be skillful enough to either get through the secretary or actually get them directly, and now they're on the phone with you when they really don't want to be, right? So there are techniques that you can use in the initial call because you got 3 or 4 seconds to really keep this person on the phone. Even on social media, when you call people on social media that are following you, it's the same thing. Matter of fact, it's even worse at times because sometimes they feel insulted that you have the audacity to even call them. Meanwhile, they're following you, they're liking your content, they're sharing your content. Go figure, right? So the number one thing you have to do is you have to earn trust within the first 3 to 4 seconds, even less than that. But you got to earn the trust in order to build rapport, because without trust, you're not going to go anywhere. Does that make sense? Okay, number 2, let me write it here. Number 2 is I'm writing it down as we go. You have to speak their language. What do I mean by speak their language? First of all, you have to know the industry that you're calling. One of the things I've learned to do whenever I call a specific client, I have to know about the industry. I have to speak some of the lingo language that they use in their industry so that I could build credibility. I got to earn trust, right? So speaking their language, because when you speak their language, you have something in common, right? It's like, you meet somebody and you like golf and you play golf. You have a common thing to talk about. Oh, you play basketball? Yeah, I do. Okay, when you have something in common, people tend to bond, right? They tend to ask questions. Hey, what do you like about it? They talk about if it's golf, the best putt they did or the best drive they did, or it doesn't matter, the best score they did. You have something in common to talk about. Because at the end of the day is people don't want to feel like they're being sold, right? Even though we're always buying and selling, right? But nobody wants to be sold, but people want to be persuaded. It's a crazy thing, but that's just the way we are. So you have to speak their language and not just fake it. Really understand the industry. There's a lot of people I run into over the years, especially in Las Vegas. They'll say certain bullet points to get their attention, but they really don't know nothing about the industry. To me, that's deceitful. That's not genuine. It's not authentic. So to me, I can't do that. To me, I have to know the industry. I don't need to know everything about it, but I have to know enough about their language so that I can, 1, earn their trust. Number 2, show them that I can help them with their business and solving their problem. And what's the number 1 problem most people have? Is they want to get more sales, right? So just think about that. Okay, number 3 is, this is where I believe you must always be. Please forgive me if you can't read most of my writing. But here's the thing, number 3. You have to be authentic, sincere, and genuine. Okay? Now, just think about it this way. Most of you out there are either salespeople, entrepreneurs, small business owners, right? But we are all customers, right? So we don't want to feel that someone is lying, that they're not being genuine, or that they're sounding like everyone else. That's why cold calling is a skill. It's hard because you don't want to sound like everyone else. You want to be authentic. You want to be genuine. More important, you have to be sincere. And the only way you can be sincere is you got to speak the truth with your clients. I have certain rebuttals and certain closing techniques that sometimes I lose a sale because of it, because I won't compromise on it. But you have to be authentic. You have to be sincere and genuine. When I look at people's content and I read it, or it's a video, or it's a graphic, I look at it, is this genuine, is this sincere, or they're using somebody's, or they're using a third party's content. I personally don't like to use third party content. Very rare I do that. The only time I do that, if at all, it's scriptures and verses from the Bible that relate to how I'm doing business now. Other than that, I try to keep everything authentic. So when I speak to a customer or prospect over the phone, I want them to know there's only one of me, one Paul Cruz. I'm not the guy with the other 9 guys you spoke with in the previous phone call. They have to buy into me because of my authenticity, being sincere, being authentic. And I take pride in doing that. I think about that all the time. Is this authentic? Is it original? You know, have people ever heard it this way? I always make an effort to do that, because one thing I don't want to do and won't do, or do my best not to do, is to insult you who are watching my videos or reading my content or anything like that. But more importantly, those that become potential customers, they need to know who I am from the get-go. Does that make sense? So that's number 3. Now, I've never done the video this way, where I actually write the content or the step. But number 4 is this. You have to sound professional. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So number 4 is you have to sound professional. Now, I'll be the first to admit, I don't use big words to try to impress people. I did that one time, and I came across so fake, so phony. I was embarrassed that I even tried it. Why? Because I was trying to impress people. I was trying to impress my consumer, not realizing that I wasn't being authentic, genuine, and sincere, right? So what I mean by sounding professional is you can't be afraid to be aggressive or assertive or be strong. Is how you use words, and the words that you use, that you really know what you're saying. You don't want to sound fake. I like to call it using $10 words versus $50 words. It sounds corny, right? But what I mean by $50 words, people trying to sound like a PhD or very sophisticated and things like that, when it's really not them. But using small words, but using them in the right story form, and making them powerful, that they carry more meaning than you trying to sound very educated. It doesn't mean you don't have to be educated, but education is different for everyone. Knowledge is different for everyone. And wisdom is different for everyone. But you always have to sound professional. I consider myself a professional salesman. I'm not ashamed to say that. And guess what? We're all salespeople. We just don't want to admit that we are. So you gotta sound professional, that you know what you're doing. That takes the first 3 steps. Gotta earn trust. You gotta speak their language. And you gotta be authentic, sincere, and genuine, and sound professional. That's number 4. Number 5 is, this was the hardest thing I had to learn, because of the type of character and the type of personality I have. Number 5 is you must be a great listener. Not just a listener, but a great listener. That is a skill on its own. Most people just want to hear themselves talk. I know a lot of salespeople over the years that love to hear themselves talk. They overtalk a sale. They overtalk a close. I was guilty of that. But I had to learn, and I did learn. And by listening, you might be able to find other problems that you didn't see that you're going to be able to help them with. Or the problem you thought they had is not what they really are focusing on. It might be something else. And that takes listening. So you have to listen so that you can be a better communicator, so that you can be a better storyteller, so that you can respect them, the customer, the prospect, letting them know, listen, I respect what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, and I'm here to help you. That's what listening does. Like I say, it's a hard skill to learn, It's something I had to work really hard at, but I'm glad I did because I consider myself a really good listener, whether people are speaking verbally or they're writing content or they're doing a video. I cut through all the fat and get right to the core of it. And that takes listening. It's a skill you have to develop, and that takes time, and you got to be willing to do that. The example I can give you is playing basketball. I love playing basketball. What I love to do most in basketball is play defense because it leads me to everything else. You know, making shots, getting steals, passing the ball. It opens up my game. So playing defense is it's an attitude. You gotta want to do that. Listening is an attitude. You gotta want to do that. Not only it's the right thing to do, but it's an important thing to do. Does that make sense? So that's number 5. You gotta be a good listener. Now we're gonna get to some exciting topics on it. Number 6. I know you may not want to hear this. Forgive my penmanship if it's not spelled right. But number 5 or number 6 is you have to be persuasive. That's right. We're all being persuaded one way or another every single day. There's nothing wrong being persuasive. Persuasive is in the dialogue, is in communication. Is they asking a question, you giving them an answer. They giving you an objection, you providing a rebuttal. It's like tennis, right? You know, they have a problem, you have solutions. You got to be persuasive. And then in the persuasion part is you have to be able to persuade them that they need to do this, why they need to do this, how it's going to help them. You got to give facts. You got to give figures and numbers. Because again, people don't want to buy, but people want to own something, right? People say, I don't want to buy, I'm going to own a house. I'm going to own a car, right? I'm going to own this. Everybody wants to take ownership, but they have to be persuaded. And the first thing they do is persuade themselves. So if you're a good listener, they're going to wind up selling themselves. You just have to fine tune it and lead them into the closing. Does that make sense? So learn the art of persuasion. It's a phenomenal thing. Personally, I've been in situations, especially recently, the last year or so, where if I wasn't persuasive, I would have gotten into some serious situations that there was no way out. But by being persuasive, I was able to turn those situations into opportunities and people benefiting from it. So you got to be persuasive. There's nothing wrong with that. I know I'm being persuaded every day because I do know it. I'm able to decide, do I want to go that way or not? Because now I'm educated. Now I understand. I won't be deceived. I won't be persuaded for doing the wrong thing. But you have to understand that you are being persuaded in order to be persuasive. Does that make sense? So being persuasive is one of the ways to build rapport with the prospect to turn them into a customer. And this one is vital. And I talk a lot about it in my other videos, is you gotta have conviction. Let's face the facts. If you're not convinced in what you're selling, what you're offering, how are you going to convince other people? Yeah, you could do it if you're lying, cheating, and stealing. Excuse me. But you got to have conviction, number one, that they should buy into you first. That they should trust you. That you're the person that's going to solve their problem. That's conviction number one. Conviction number two, that you have the solution to their business problem or their personal problem. They may not even have a business problem, but that you can help them grow their business exponentially. That you have to convince them why they need to do business with you versus the person they're already using. Or the people they have inside their company. Why they should add you to that team. Also, conviction has to do when you're a business owner and you're starting your business and you're trying to get talent to buy into your vision. You got to have conviction why they should come with you versus an established company that's been around for years. Think about that. Those of you that go on interviews, you have to convince the employer, the HR person, why they have to hire you over the other people they've interviewed before you or the ones they'll interview after you, right? You got to be a salesman and you got to be convincing. You got to have conviction. And the only way you have conviction, especially in sales, is you got to have a strong enough why you're doing something so the how can follow. That's conviction. Do you have conviction in what you do? If you don't, you'll never be as successful as you should be. So you got to have conviction to build a rapport in the sales call or in the cold call. Number 8. Most of you might be skeptical about this or may not really accept this in one form or another. However, this is the fact of selling. There's no ways around that. A professional salesman, or what I call a master closer, or dynamic salesman, is a phenomenal storyteller. So number 8, storytelling. People love to hear stories. I don't care what anybody says. But in the beginning of a call, one, you got to earn trust and respect, right? So that you're able to tell a story. Because at the end of the day, we all listen to stories. What is storytelling in simple terms is when you speak. I'll give you certain analogies. Let's say you go into a club or you go into a gathering what's the first thing people start to talk about? Themselves, right? Because they want to get in with people. Or you go into a network event. You start to network about your business, about this, why they should do that. Meanwhile, there's many other people that do the same thing you do, right? Does that make sense? Well, let's use another analogy. Those of you who go to movie theaters. You literally go in the car, you go to the movies. Why do you go to the movie theaters? To watch a movie. Because you want to escape. You want to hear a story. You want to feel emotional. Right? All of those things. But it's a story. But the storytelling has to be done with facts, with solutions, with telling people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, making it emotional, making it exciting, making it logical. I call it the ums, the ahs, and ums of selling. But storytelling, if you look at all of the top athletes, if you look at all the top musicians and actors and real estate moguls, they are phenomenal storytellers. So you have to be able to tell a good story where the words pop, where it has meaning, it has power behind it. Don't ever forget that. And then number 9 and number 10, which I'm going to put together. Okay. Closing mindset and conversion skills. Number 9 and number 10. They're really one, but I separated them as 2. Closing is a mindset. Closing is an attitude. Closing happens in the opening of a call, whether you realize that or not. Because one thing you don't want to do is when you come into the closing and you didn't do the other 8 steps, you're never going to get a sale, or you're never going to get a lot of sales. You're going to wind up dropping your prices tremendously just to get a sale, but you're never going to build successful relationship. Conversion is more on the social media end of it. You got to have skills for that, because a lot of people on social media understand social media probably more than me. Well, a lot of them do. I'm okay with that. But I have an advantage. I understand the art of conviction and persuasion and solutions. So you got to know how to close. You can't be afraid of that. And people do appreciate that. Trust me when I tell you, prospects appreciate when you're closing them. Why? Because they want to be led to a path. They want to be converted into a customer, especially if they see you have solutions for them and you're getting them to want to own it. This is where people blow it because they overtalk the sale. So by closing, it's not just the end of the sale. Closing is throughout the process of the sale. From the opening of the sale to the body of the sale to the closing of it to the whole process. You're always closing. I don't like that word always be closing. I think it's cliche. I think it's phony. Part of being a salesman is at the end you're closing from the beginning. So you don't have to say, I'll always be closing. You're closing no matter what, or you at least should be doing it, right? Now conversion and converting is still the same thing. People like to hear the word conversion versus closing. People don't like to hear the word deal. They like the word sale. It's the same thing. But at the end of the day is when you build a rapport and you build a rapport the right way, and you go from a perceived value in the beginning to a real intrinsic value during the sales process, the closing comes easier. I don't mean take it for granted or that people are just going to lay down for you, but you've given everything you have in the sales process that you've earned the closing, or what I call finalizing the sale. In other words, getting a credit card, wire transfer, a Zelle, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day is they owning something, they have a solution to their problem, they're looking to increase their revenue, and you provided that. Now here's a bonus. To build a genuine rapport with a prospect, the number one thing you have to really focus on is being yourself. Selling you, offering you. Because at the end of the day, they have to buy into you first before they buy the product or services you're offering. I never forget that. I never will. Think about that, guys. I hope this has been helpful. I want to thank you for being part of the martial arts of sales and being part of my new location, my new home, and my new office place as well. I'm excited about it and I'm very blessed for it. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscription button below. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. It does help me. And also, if you believe this video can help others, please share the video with others. Till we speak again, I say goodbye. This is Paul Cruz with the Martial Arts of Sales. Have a fantastic night. Bye.